And now I get to talk about one of my favorite things about the Presbyterian Church USA, and that is the Young Adult Volunteers Program. The Young Adult Volunteer Program is an ecumenical, faith-based year of service for young people ages 19 to 30 in sites that span both the United States and around the world. There are currently 7 national sites and 6 international sites. YAVs, as they're called, accompany local agencies working to address root causes of poverty and reconciliation. And then alongside this volunteer work, they explore the meaning of their Christian faith and accountability to their neighbors in the community with peers and mentors during the year. Young adults are also invited then to engage in world issues, commit to self-reflection, listen to those who are being marginalized, and learn in new ways. This becomes an invitation to a year of service for a lifetime of change. Like everything, the YAV program took a bit of a hit, and there are only currently 30 volunteers serving this year, but I am sure they are recruiting again to try to bump that back up. YAVs are placed with partner organizations in each of the sites. Their work then depends on the focus of the placement partner. Volunteers' interests and skills are taken into account when discerning a site placement. Volunteers engage then in direct service in areas of education and awareness and advocacy. Many people I know that were YAVs have remained very connected to the program in some sense, gone into ministry, and even one of my colleagues started one of the current YAV sites in Asheville, North Carolina. This is truly a transformational program for our young people. So I served as a YAV a number of years ago in the 2006-2007 volunteer year with 3 other women in Guatemala. My assignment was to accompany and partner with the women's and youth groups of a region of the National Evangelical Church of Guatemala, National Evangelical Presbyterian Church of Guatemala. And if you wonder about the impact of this small program, I had not seriously considered attending seminary until I was a young adult volunteer. It is hard to sum up all of the touching and meaningful, silly and serious memories of that year, but to try to just give you a glimpse, I'll share one story that I still think about from my year. I traveled around much of the western highlands of Guatemala with a dear woman named Marta Elkshoop. She was passionate about organizing and teaching at all of the women's Bible studies in the area churches. She is also a seminary-trained teacher in a church that struggles with ordaining and embracing the gifts of women for ministry. On one particular trip, we walked into a church we were visiting just as the service started. I immediately noticed that all of the men were sitting on one side of the church and the women and children were sitting on another. This is not to pass judgment, and nor was it representative of most of the churches I visited. But for whatever reason, this was the practice of this very isolated, tiny rural church. Being very aware at this point, of course, that everyone would very much notice where the tall white foreigner would sit, I leaned over to Marta and said, "Where do we sit?" Marta confidently said, "With the men." "Are you sure?" And Marta spoke these wise words, "We have to show them there is another way. We have to show them there is another way." I cannot tell you the times that I have contemplated these powerful words as I think about the ways that we can make worship and church more inclusive and expansive, communities more peaceful and just, the world more in line with the vision that God had at the time of creation. Martha consistently demonstrated to me what it means to be a gentle, faithful, and persistently truthful witness to the gospel. So the Pentecost offering that we'll take next week is one of the special offerings of the PCUSA as a wide whole church, and it focuses on supporting all the needs and the development of our youth and young adults. A gift to the Pentecost offering helps the church encourage, develop, and support our young people, and can also address the needs of at-risk children. So 40% of the Pentecost offering can be retained by individual congregations for these purposes in the community. And then 60% will go to support all of these programs that our denomination has, including the young adult volunteers, to invest in the future of our children, youth, and young adults. If you want to learn more specifically about young adult volunteers, you can find all sorts of great stories and links and information on the Presbyterian Mission Agency part of the pcosa.org website. But I do deeply encourage you to consider giving to the Pentecost offering as a way to invest in the lives and future of children, youth, and young adults in our church and in our community.